Hello everyone, it's Wills in the studio today, and we're going to talk about oil pastels and the way they can be used and the different sorts there are and how to choose them. These are some of the pastels that I use. I use a lot of pastels and I've got other brands, but I'm going to show you some of these. I'll show you these first. I use these a fair bit. These are Hager pastels made by the Hager Corporation. Now Hager are now made in Malaysia and China, so they use quite a soft clay base and very subtle colours. So these are for natural work, landscapes and portraits. I have there on the board some proper watercolour paper, really good watercolour paper, and I'm just going to show you the different sort of marks these pastels make. So these are Hager pastels. You see they're very subtle colours, they're quite soft, and they lay down a really thick colour, and you can smudge those colours and they stay on the surface. So they're really a nice pastel, Hager. The next pastel I want to talk about is Pentel. So this is a Pentel oil pastel. Now Pentels also are subtle natural colours, not too vivid. What I've chosen here is a fairly vivid purple, but that does happen in nature. Pentel colours are smaller than Hager, so you can use them for more detail. Very nice little pastels, but quite oily. They have a different oily surface. When you smudge them, it goes more into the surface. So there's far more oil in the Pentel pastels. So they're great for detail, but they can be smudgy. So the next one to look at, these are Dala Rowney. So the Rowney company makes them. Dala used to be a French company and made board, but they've been made in England here for quite some while. So this is the Dala Rowney pastel, and it's harder altogether. You can hear it scrubbing on the surface, but there's a big range of colours, and these are great for detail. Once again, you can smudge all of these colours, and the Dala colour doesn't smudge as much as the other ones that I've shown you. So it's really handy for detail and a massive range of colours. The next are, I'm going to bring the box up to show you, Royal and Langnickel. This is quite an old company, Royal and Langnickel. These are my favourites here, and that's because they arrive like this. They look like that when you buy them. They're like the original graphite pencils way in the past. So they have a part point on, and they're soft, and they lay down lots of colour, and the point's very handy for just putting in detail. They're a really nice pastel. They're now made in Malaysia. So the clays come from Malaysia. They're really worth buying. That's a nice pastel. Royal and Langnickel. The next ones, this is an old tin I've had since the 60s, and I keep refilling it as I buy the pastels. Filia pastel colours. See if I can open this aging tin. Filia colours are all very natural. These are made in Denmark with hard clays. So I'm just going to pick a pink out here. These are really hard. They're a small pastel, easy to hold, and you really have to work them. There's not much oil in them at all. They're great for detail, and they're great for natural colours, really natural colours. They're terribly expensive, Filia pastels, but very useful. So that doesn't smudge much at all. Really nice pastels. The last one, These are my bright pastels. These pastels are made in Korea, South Korea. I forget the name, Mungvo I think. Yes, Mungvo pastels, made in Korea. So these are for bright drawings. There are a few subtle colours. You've seen me very often drawing my oil paint drawings in this particular pastel. This is a Mungvo grey, and they're soft pastels. They're large, look, they're rather thick, they're quite oily, and they don't have the spread that you expect. So you see what's happening here. They're gathering, look, because they're oily, they're gathering on the surface. Now that can be very handy, all according to what you're painting. But for drawing out an oil paint, an oil painting, that's what I always use, little Mungvo grey. So those are all the pastels that I use normally. Now I'm going to show you a way of using pastels. A lot of people use paper for oil pastels. The only problem with paper is the oils in the pastels soak into the surface. So the thing for me is canvases. This is a very smooth, small canvas. So we're just going to draw a very quick sketch on this little canvas, just to show you the variety of ways that we can use pastels. I'm not going to make this a particularly good painting for any reason. This is just to show you how I use pastels. I'm going to use this as a subject for a very, very fast sketch. This is Glencoe up in Scotland. A lot of people know this. And you do get lots of colour. You get lots of colour in the sky. It's in a very mountainous region with a lot of water around it. So lots of colour, and the very craggy mountains. So I'm just going to do a fast sketch to show you how you can use pastels out in the open air to prepare yourself for work in the studio. We just reference this. Rather strange broken mountains here. Mountain opposite in the valley, part of the valley coming down, and there are mountains at the back. So I've sketched with one of these Royal and Langnickel pastels, nice soft pastel, and they don't smudge too much. Doesn't matter a bit of smudging, but these don't smudge too much. I chose this one because the top end of the sky here actually comes out as that colour. So I'm going to use that and start putting this sky in, and I'm going to lay down a bit of background on here. So, quick sky. And to get more colour on, you just press more on them. And then the same blue is here. Okay, so I'm just going to put the pastel down a minute, pick up this little bit of cloth. I use this a lot. A little bit of old black cloth. And I can fill in a little bit of that colour, smudge it in a little bit. This is just a sketch, don't forget. Okay, so next colour up. I think what I'll do is put some green in. So I've picked up a Pentel pastel. Pentels are rather nice, particularly on a textured surface, and this one actually is the right sort of colour for the green. And I go in the direction of the valley. And if I use it lighter, I can use it for the bottom of these hills as well. Better not say hills, these are definitely mountains. Very dangerous mountains at the end of Glencoe. A lot of climbers use these. They're used for practice for climbing the big peaks in the Himalayas and things like that. A lot of people come to grief on these mountains in the winter. They think they look relatively easy, they're not. They're terrible things to climb. Okay, so there's the green on in Pentel colour. Back to my little black cloth. You can see the difference with the Pentel. A lot of colour comes back off and goes powdery, but it's giving me the effect that I want. So next, this is a Reeves colour. It's one I've had for a long time. So I'm just going to use it to start putting that valley in. It's a sort of a bluey green in the background of the valley. You've got to be able to sort out the colours that you want as you are working. It's not quite as easy as using oil paint where you're actually mixing on the surface. That's enough for the Reeves. I need something a bit darker. Back to Hager colours. This is a nice large one. Slightly browner, the Hager colour. Right, back to my little bit of cloth. Then we have at the bottom here a sort of a reddish brown. I think this little Pentel colour is roughly the right colour. So I'm just going to whip this on. It's quite heavy here so I can press. And then it runs into the green here. Okay, we're starting to see the landscape appear now. We'll go to the top here. I think I'll use this dark blue. So I've got a Royal and Langnickel dark blue. I'm going to need to add purple to it, I know. Just use it on its side to get a softer effect. Okay, so I need a little bit of purple. I've got a Pentel purple here. Just run it in with it. And then the background here, again, is a lighter purple. This is a Rowney. Quite hard. You have to press to get the colour out of it. Can be quite handy with detail. That same colour goes up into the sky a bit up here. And then we need a pink. Now I don't know how you all work outdoors, but I tend to take photographs of everything, and the sky and everything changes so quickly. It's not like Victorian days with the old Victorian painters where they had to do quick sketches and rush back to the studio. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Take a photograph, get back into the dry. Now I need a blue. Put a bit of a lighter blue in. And the pastels mix in with each other very quickly. So this is just a little rough sketch, but it's in real time. I haven't put in some of the detail in the background, and lots of the detail is missing. If I'd been sitting here in Glencoe in the freezing cold, I could have done this quick sketch in no end of time, quarter of an hour, taken a photograph, gone back to the studio and produced the painting I wanted. But I have here an idea of the colours that I want in the pastels. I'm just going to show you some other ways of using pastels now. So we can use pastels on coloured card. This is a Mung Vo pastel, so I could draw in something like the mountains I was drawing a minute ago. Just draw them in, give them little snowy caps. If we use coloured cards, we've got the advantage of a background colour that we can bring into the picture, and particularly using something like this blue, we can use lighter blues so we can get lots of different sky effects. You see how the pastels actually take the texture of the paper. Let me just put a bit of green in. Put this green down this valley. You see it takes green very well. This is the Royal Lang nickel. Again, a really nice soft chalky sort of oil pastel. So it takes that colour well, but it makes the colour stand up on a coloured card. That's all I'm going to do, just to show you how it works. It's a nice quick little sketch, but it shows you can use all sorts of backgrounds with pastels. I'm using this picture here. This is Sleegahan on the Isle of Skye, very favourite spot, fabulous mountains. Those are the Black Coolins, the beginning of the Black Coolins. This is one of the Red Coolins. This is a little lodge, Sleegahan Lodge. It's above the hotel. So it's a good picture for having a central focus point. But I'm going to show you a technique that we can use with pastels. So I have in this bottle some liquid that I've poured out of this big tin here. And this is just standard medium from Winsor & Newton. Now this is an oil painter's gel. So I'm just scrubbing it all over this canvas. This is a standard canvas. We've spread liquid gel, medium, all over the canvas, and we can use that underneath the oil pastels, and it'll help the oil pastels spread better. So I'm going to use this little Daler-Rowney blue pastel, and I'm just going to put in the side of this mountain. Now the pastels skid on the surface. You hardly have to touch the painting. That makes them more cost effective as well. It just makes it quite easy. They glide on the surface. We'll put a little bit of blue into the sky here. Now you can see how that's spreading on, and that blue goes right across. and dark on that corner. So we've got to that point. I've got my little bit of cloth here. Let's find a nice clean part of it. So I'm going to use a purple. This is a Pentel colour. The problem with oil pastels is there's only so many colours you can have. Even if you own the biggest collection of oil pastels in the world, you'll never have all the colours that you want. So there's purple on. Then I need dark blue on to make the colour. But they mix better because they've got that wind gel underneath them. And you can start looking at the marks in the mountain. What's the mountain actually doing? This is not the easiest way of making a picture, but it's a great way of using pastels, particularly if you're out in the open. And then this mountain closest to us is sort of pinky. So I've got this Pentel salmon colour. See, the pastels glide over each other, so you can see the one through the other. At the end of this, that wind gel will harden off and leave you quite a hard surface. Unlike normal pastel work, it'll leave a hard surface on, so it comes out far more like a painting. So there's a little lodge here. I'm just going to do a quick sketch of this little lodge. I'm not going to do the whole painting. It's just to show you really a technique. So this is all I'm going to do with this. So it's the central part of the sketch. You can see it's a much stronger sketch than this one. Let me just show you this one in comparison. That's just oil pastel on canvas. This is oil pastel on a rougher surface canvas, using the liquid medium underneath, and it's still wet. That'll be wet for a long time. You could sit out in the open and do this sketch in a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, and you'll have a perfectly acceptable sketch. You can see you can work it with your fingers, so if you want to put clouds in, you can actually work them in with your fingers. Picked up a bit of green there. You can make a misty effect if you want to around the hills. And make the colour really solid. So there we have a little picture of the Isle of Skye done very quickly, just to show you what is possible with oil pastels. So don't just stick to one make and one type. Get some different types, different hardnesses, different vivid colours and subtle colours, and try them out for all sorts of use. They're great for sketching. That's enough from today. I don't know whether you've noticed, but Pablo thinks it's Christmas already. I don't know what he's doing. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe please. I need you to help subscribe to the channel, otherwise it won't grow. Comment. I always answer my comments eventually, as you know. And don't forget the bell notification so you see what's coming up next. So that's it from today, from the studio, using oil pastels. See you again soon.